Hey everybody, Hans Dahl here, and I'm delighted to be with you as today we wrap up a conversation about passing on the faith to the next generation. Now here's what you know, young adults who grew up going to church are walking away from the church in droves. I believe that we can do better. And so over these 5 sessions of this series, I'm giving you what I think and research suggests are 4 solutions to this problem. In the second session of this series, I shared what I consider solution number 1, and that was make it irresistible. The church was never meant to be a have-to experience. It was never meant to be a painful obligation. The first church was irresistible, and if we want to pass on faith to the next generation, the first place to start is by making the church irresistible again. In the next session, I shared solution number 2, which is parents matter most. Again, the old adage is true, monkey see, monkey do. Kids who grow up watching their parents living a vibrant and engaged life of faith, all the research tells us they are exponentially more likely to grow into adulthood with a vibrant and engaged life of faith for themselves because faith is caught, it's not taught. Now, finally, in the last session, I shared solution number 3, which was talk Jesus. Kids learn to speak Christian when they are immersed in cultures, environments where experienced Christians regularly speak Christian. Surrounded by people who talk about Jesus, they're offered laboratories, if you will, where teenagers can hone their language skills. They're given opportunities to practice it in a safe and encouraging environment. Well, today I want to give you a 4th and final solution. How do I pass on faith to my kids? You give them experiences. What do I mean by that? When I was in college, I had the hots for a really cute girl who was part of a ministry group on a college campus where we attended. And she said there was this retreat the ministry group was going on to South Dakota and wondered if I wanted to attend. Again, because I was more than a little attracted to her, I said yes, without asking a single question about the retreat. Now, I thought I was signing up for a retreat where we'd go to some Bible camp, maybe sing a few songs and do a little Bible study, but this wasn't that kind of retreat at all. After committing, I found out that the retreat took us to the Pine Ridge Reservation in South Dakota. And there, we were to learn about Native American culture, the history of reservation life, and explore what our faith has to say about the injustices Native Americans have experienced. This was way more than I bargained for. But I have to say, it was transformational for me. It was transformational because it took me out of the comfortable bubble I lived in most of my days, and it put me in an environment designed to shake loose some of my old assumptions and make room for new possibilities of how God worked in the world. And it did this surrounded by a group of people who cared, people who were safe. It was powerful. It was an experience that left a mark on my faith forever. You see, when we give students experiences that sort of decenter them, that eject them from their comfort zones and bring them to a new place from which God can help us reconsider how God works in the world, it's transformative for faith. I imagine this is what happened to the disciples when they were locked in the upper room with Jesus. Do you remember the story? They'd seen Jesus crucified, and now he appeared to them in flesh and blood. They were momentarily displaced. They were sort of suspended between what they thought happened and what really happened, and it loosened the grips on their old assumptions and allowed them to entertain a new reality they'd previously thought unfathomable. Jesus was alive. If you grew up in church, maybe you experienced something like this. Your parents sent you off to Bible camp, and on Thursday night, the night before you went home, you found yourselves in tears at the campfire. Something in you was shaken during that week. Or maybe you went on that mission trip to Mexico or Chicago and working alongside people who had so little and yet were so happy. it shook loose some assumptions you had about what the good life is. And God began to rewrite some of your definitions. You stepped away from your everyday ordinary. You detached from the safety of home, and you were thrust into spaces where none of the usual tools helped you make sense of things. And you were forced to step back and develop new tools. Such experiences create a measure of, disequilibrium. They force us to reconstruct our faith. When we as parents let go in some cases, or in other times, push our kids into these experiences, it creates dissonance in our kids' lives. They get a little uncomfortable, but they grow in faith. I saw a billboard the other day that said, "Comfort and growth never coexist." And so when we give them experiences, it can be transformational. Folks, how do we pass on the faith to our kids? Solution number 1, make it irresistible. Number 2, parents matter most. Number 3, talk Jesus. And number 4, give them experiences. As we close today, a couple of questions. First, if you're a follower of Jesus, what experiences have you had that you point to as having had a significant impact on your faith? And secondly, now be honest here, which of the 4 solutions that we've talked about seems hardest for you? Make it irresistible, parents matter most, talk Jesus, or give them experiences? Folks, thanks for tuning in. Have a great one.